So let's explore. Let's ask the question. Let's build the checklist. Buying a used Warhammer 40K army. Now, there's times where through the gaming club, through the gaming group, or just the power of the warp, you have the opportunity to buy a massive, ready-to-go 40K army. I had this experience in that I never planned to play Tyranids. But at the club, there was a Tyranid army that just came up for sale. This was a number of years ago, and it was the dangerous duality of I had just gotten paid. I just cashed my paycheck, and rather than stopping at home, I went right to the club. This army's for sale. Now, I was going to pay to have my car fixed. Muffler's hanging off with muffler tape and some wire, and it's like, fix car, buy 40K army. Fix car, buy 40K army. Responsible adult, or buy 40K army. Turns out I was vindicated and I was correct because my 20-year-old car blew up like a couple of months later, and I would have pumped the money into the muffler, and it didn't work out. Sometimes you have an opportunity to buy an out-of-the-box, ready-to-go army. And then there's other times where you purchase an army. Maybe it's a little bit older. That's what I want to explore. Maybe it's an edition or two of 40K back. The core is pretty good. The core units are pretty good, but some of the other units might be a little bit older, not only in terms of models, but just power level. Games Workshop constantly cycles through various units and power levels. So how do we approach what's going to work and what doesn't work, and how to use this used army, this secondhand army, and bring it up to primary status, especially in terms of building a list. The first thing I would say is just throw it down on the table, build a couple of lists, and have some fun. See what you can do. We talk about this not only in 40K, but every wargaming system. Slight sidebar. You want to get to the point where you don't have to do those internal calculations of the army in your head. So you don't want to have to think, okay, I move up with these guys. They fire 20 shots at strength 4. And if I engage this unit, or I should move here, you want to know how your army just operates. So this way, it frees you from making those internal calculations. So you can now, instead of focusing on your army, literally your side of the table, you can look at your opponent's army. And what you're looking for are mistakes, for them to make mistakes. And part of this is just learning that army, knowing that army. So your first 10, 12, 15 games, winning is important, but those first couple of games, they don't really count because you're kind of in the lab figuring things out. So I would just throw down the army on the table and just play it. And you're going to find out really fast what units are effective and what units are not so effective. And of course, you can speed this learning curve up by looking at unit analysis on YouTube and blogs and various sites, getting an idea of the pieces that you've acquired, the units that you've acquired in this army, how do they work, what's their power level, and looking at the army as a list, how is it going to work? So what that's going to do is now start to segment. These are the models that you're going to keep. These are the models that they're just not going to work. The power level isn't there. Games Workshop has cycled them out. And there's a couple of recommendations with that. You could put them on your gaming shelf and hold on to them and maybe use them for big games or apocalypse games or over various editions when they get reset. So I won't say just scrap them and sell them. Although, you could. If they are really that terabad, you could and use those funds to boost new armies and new units into the army. Or you can look and say, with these tier of models that might not be so good, are there ways to repurpose them? Are there ways to convert them? Can you take some bits and change things up a little bit? An example with the Tyranid army, I had a flying Hive Tyrant. I also had, it came with 16 Carnifexes. That's what originally got me really excited because I love Fex bombs. I love the Distraction Carnifex. I love the Carnifex in every single iteration. Just a fantastic unit, a lot of fun to play with. But I had so many Carnifexes, I'm like, just the point level I can't play them at because Carnifexes have always been overcosted. GW needs to show them the love, but I also needed Steelers and Gaunts and other units into the hive, the matrix. But I also had a ton of bits, unpainted bits, bags and bags of bits. So I thought to myself, what if you take 2 or 3 of these Carnifexes, work some bits, and now I have Hive Tyrants. I have a second Flying Hive Tyrant. I could have some Ground Tyrants, looking at it from that perspective. So are there some units in the army that you acquired cycling out that with some bits or with some changes? A great example off the top of my head is Chosen for Chaos. I mean, they come with everything. It's really easy if you have mass amounts of Chaos Space Marines, generic Chaos Space Marines, and you say, look, I don't need all of these Chaos Space Marines. Can you cycle them out, but keep the champions, keep the squad leaders, keep those unique models with the unique war gear, repurpose them as Chosen, and utilize them that way? So can you create some new units out of the existing units? What that's going to do is help you identify the core that works and help bulk up a little bit more. But again, the challenge with purchasing a secondhand army, unless it's the current cycle edition of 40K, there are going to be some units and some models that are not going to have as much use. And the big decision there first is figuring it out and identifying them quickly so you know just how much of the army is viable to now boost up with new models, and then making the decision, can we convert them and repurpose? Do we put them on the gaming shelf, or do we sell them out and use those funds to purchase new models? My recommendation, and I say recommendation because every circumstance is different and unique, when I purchased lots of models or secondhand models to paint up, and of course you get models that came with the lot that you're not necessarily going to use, I do keep them. I do put them on my gaming shelf. I mean, I have a lot of units that Games Workshop has just not shown the love for, but they have a use. Big games, fun games, narrative games, building wacky lists. I mean, there was a time where we were throwing down something like 17 dreadnoughts. I was throwing down like 17, 18 dreadnoughts. And yes, I like dreadnoughts. The unit certainly has done better at different points over the years than it is right now. Games Workshop certainly isn't pushing that many dreads, but it was fun to kind of throw them down. So holistically speaking, growing out your collection, I think ultimately what you want to get for each of your armies, and this is where an infusion secondhand comes helpful, is you've got your competitive army. You're going to play in the tournament, you're going to represent the club, or you just are taking on that guy in your gaming group where just you can't lose because then you're going to hear about it for weeks and weeks and weeks. You bring the competitive army. Then you've got the army, which it's like a narrative. Hey, we're going to play some new games. Maybe it's someone new to 40K. You want them to see different units and try out different things. Let's cycle in some of the models that aren't as competitive. And then there's the wacky stuff where you just want to have some fun and throw down some stuff no one's ever seen before. So to have that model library helps. And I think we want to move towards that. So I'm going to turn it over to the comments for you guys now. Running a used 40K army, purchasing a used 40K army, sorting through, especially if it's a massive older army from a previous edition, what do we keep? What do we repurpose? And, what do we kind of cycle back in and sell from that perspective?